This is to document the effect of exercise in our blood ketones. This is my first workout for the week, but I've been into low carb and fasting for more than 3 years now. And today is my second day of boxing with my sister and my brother-in-law and also our boxing coach. So I will check my blood sugar first and also followed by my blood ketones. So I'm already at 19 hour of fasting as of this time, and it's 89. So this is expected. Normal fasting level is between 70 to 100. And for my blood ketones, since it's already beyond 18 hours, I'm expecting to be in ketosis, although not much, but a little ketosis. So true enough, my blood ketones is at 0.9. So starting 0.5, that's already ketosis, and in GKI, it's 5.4. 5.4 means a moderate degree or moderate level of ketosis wherein your body is now fueling on ketones, although there will always be part of your body like your red blood cells and a little part of your brain and some parts of our system that is still demanding glucose, but largely when you are already fat adapted, your body is now fueling on ketones. So this is just a beginner's boxing workout, but the purpose of this video is just to show that our body is actually capable of adapting to fuel, and most importantly, it is capable of producing glucose. We don't need to fuel so much on glucose because our body has the capacity to make its own glucose. So remember, my blood sugar before starting this one at 19 hours of fasting is already at 89 milligrams per DL, and my ketones is at 0.9 millimoles. When it comes to measuring ketones, it is not actually necessary, especially when you are doing clean low carb or even if you are doing ketogenic diet. But this is just to document so that we can really assess how certain activities like exercise can actually influence our fuel sources. So for newbies, what are ketones? Ketones is from keto acid. This is the fuel that comes from burning of fats. So the fats in our body and the fats from our food can be converted into fatty acids and keto acid. So these molecules can be used up by majority of our cells in the body, the ones with nucleus. It can generate ATP the way glucose can also generate ATP. Research shows that glucose as a form of energy is actually generating more free radicals, those garbage, those byproducts that can cause inflammation and eventual damage in our DNA, eventually causing damage in our expression of our genes, and eventually it can reveal as inflammation and can be translated into many of the modern diseases we have today: diabetes, hypertension, cancers and tumors, fatty liver, PCOS, and many more. On the other hand, fueling on ketones shown to be protective, especially for our mitochondria and our cellular health. For our brain, others didn't know that our brain is actually capable of adapting into using ketones as fuel source. That's why when you are in ketosis and when you are already fat adapted, you will experience this mental clarity, focus, and even stamina that you've never experienced before. For others who never tried fasting, they may feel that it is impossible, especially in times that they didn't plan on skipping a meal. And when they did skip a meal, they felt exhausted, irritable, also having headache, weakness, and all of those symptoms, without knowing that those symptoms are actually just a very brief period where your body is transitioning from being dependent in glucose, now shifting to fatty acid and ketones as a source of energy. Why do we need to fast, or why do we need to skip a meal in order to activate ketogenesis? because whenever we eat, there is a spike of insulin. And when insulin is present, it will block fat burning. Remember that the natural state of our body without insulin is fat burning. But since we are eating often, 3 times a day, this mechanism never shuts down. So it is always on the fat blocking mechanism. Yes, of course, if you eat very little, it can also be activated, but that mechanism may not be sustainable because as you burn little fat, you will only burn after you already burned your proteins. That's why a lot of people doing low calorie diet, a calorie deficit diet, will lose weight but will also lose muscles. They will have problems sustaining their muscle mass, especially if they don't exercise. So when you actually fast, you are not just losing fats or making ketones, but there's also a very important part of the process. This is what we call autophagy. So autophagy is the self-cleansing mechanism of our body wherein your body will try to maintain a normal blood sugar level and create sugar according to your needs during that time. But since no food is coming in, it will now start to break down the sugar stores in our body. The number one would be glycogen. So glycogen is usually stored in our liver, and we have approximately 2,000 kilocalories worth of glycogen in our liver, and when we fast, we deplete that one. And when that one is depleted through the process of glycogenolysis, that's the time that fatty acid oxidation will happen. Fatty acid oxidation means fat burning. It can start as early as 12 hours from fasting, but the most significant period is actually about 18 hours of fasting. That's why for those who want to lose fat, they might want to consider doing a minimum of 18 hours of fasting. Why 18 hours? Because that's also the time that insulin still has an effect from your last meal, especially if it's carbohydrate-rich meal. Speaking of your meal, there is also a way for us to get into ketosis, to burn our fats even while we are eating. And that is where low-carb nutrition comes in. Another faster way would be ketogenic diet. Ketogenic diet is a subset of low carb, which is it is even more strict, that the daily carbohydrate limit is only at 20 grams of net carbohydrates per day, as compared to general low carb, which is about 50 grams of carbohydrate per day. Ketogenic diet is effective for those who want to lose weight fast, but its indication for healing may be specific and different as to case basis. And with general low-carb nutrition, wherein you limit your carbohydrates into 50 grams per day and you get your calorie needs from fats and proteins either equally or more than the fats or more than the proteins, depending on your physical activity and your goal, this lifestyle is very, very much sustainable. The last quarter, I was on low carb, high protein diet since my goal was to increase my muscle mass. And since I've been successful with increasing my muscle mass, but together with it, there's a collateral effect of having an increased fat mass as well, despite being within the normal range. This quarter, we are now aiming at toning the muscles and lessening the body fat by eating low carb, just moderate proteins, and also moderate to high fat, but with a total calorie intake of not more than what our daily caloric needs. So we actually don't need to eat less when it comes to low carb nutrition, but we just have to eat right, and as always, listen to our body. So as of this point here, I'm already at my 19-hour fast. There were a few times there that I feel a little dizzy from all the movements and also from exhaustion. And this was easily addressed by drinking water. And it also helped that I took some grains of salt before this workout. All in all, I've taken just water, plain black coffee, and salt for the last 19 hours before this physical activity. Note though that for others who are not doing low carb, fasting can still be done, but they might have a harder time as compared to those who started with low carb nutrition. Because when you eat low carb, you are actually helping yourself not to be dependent into glucose. And also during that time, maybe approximately 2 weeks period, you don't need to starve yourself. You don't need to stop eating. You can eat as much as you want, even at any time you want, although it is better to avoid eating 4 to 6 hours before your bedtime. So when you do low carb for at least 2 weeks, after that one, especially if you stick on our JGC Rojo food list, you will see that after 2 weeks, you will lose appetite on the times that you used to be eating, and you will feel full faster. And when that time comes, that's actually a very good signal that your body is now actually starting to break down fats that it doesn't need. And so you can already start fasting. And why do we want to be fasting again? Is it just for weight loss? Actually, no. Fasting has a lot of benefits. If you don't have any illness yet, then that is the best time for you to start fasting, for your body to always have this immune regeneration, stem cell reset, and for optimizing of your overall health, because fasting is cleansing your body. The benefits of fasting goes beyond spiritual, psychological, mental, even on the medical sense and physical sense. It can really actually cleanse your body, because that is the beauty of autophagy. Autophagy is actually activated based on the demand of our body to maintain a normal blood glucose. And when that normal blood glucose is starting to get low, your body will now start to look for the bits and pieces that it can find for recycling, whether a whole cell that it's already defective or just a damaged cellular parts. These cellular parts, these cells are all made up of proteins, and these proteins can be broken down into amino acids, and these amino acids can now be reconstructed and be made into glucose, the glucose that we still need while we are also fueling on ketones. And we are already about to end our 1 hour and 15 minute morning exercise, and when I checked my GKI or glucose ketone index, it actually increased. So I am no longer in ketosis, because my ketones from 0.9, it actually dropped into 0.6. And although it is still a significant level of ketones, but since GKI is a ratio with glucose, it is now increased, and increased GKI means lowered degree of ketosis. It's just a proportion wherein you can tell which ones your body is fueling. So during this time, my blood glucose from 89, it now increased into 124, and that one is a proof that our body is actually capable of producing its own glucose, and this can be dependent on the demands that your body needs. Just like today, since my last meal was around 12 noon, the other day I ate only low carb food, and after about 19 hours going 20 hours, my glucose spiked up into 124, because my body sense, especially my muscles, are needing more of it, because there are what we call as anaerobic glycolysis, wherein when you exercise, certain kinds of muscles are activated, and these muscles are only capable of burning food that is from glucose and not from ketones. Eventually, it can be adapted also to accept ketones as a source of energy. So the lowered level of ketones after exercise can mean that my body actually used up those ketones into energy, and the increase in glucose in the bloodstream can indicate that my body created its own glucose to provide the needs of my muscles and probably part of my brain during that physical activity. And your body, our body, everybody's body is capable of producing those glucose when necessary. There are only very, very few rare cases, genetic problems causing inability to produce glucose through gluconeogenesis, but 99.99% of us are actually capable of doing so. So honestly, I felt a little weak before this activity, but after our activity, I felt more energized and ready to go for the day. We ended at around 9 o'clock in the morning, and my work starts at 10 a.m. And I know I'll be working for more than 12 hours. And since I'm currently on OMAD, or one meal a day, I also don't plan on eating right after or even before work. I plan to eat in between our operation, which would be about 4 to 5 in the afternoon, and I'd be around 28 to 29 hours of fasting already. The longest fasting that I did was 14 days. So fasting for 1 day or 2 days is just nothing to me. So don't follow if you are not used to fasting. Try to educate yourself first. Try to make sure you consult with your doctor and that it is safe for you. If you like this video, the contents of this video, or if you wish to know more, we have an ongoing masterclass for low carb nutrition and fasting lifestyle, and how we can make use of this knowledge to get an edge into avoiding or even reversing lifestyle diseases that is plaguing our world right now. Just message our admins if you wish to know more. And when it comes to food intake, you may not be ready to do fasting immediately, but just know that skipping one meal or two meals will not kill you, and the fear on ulcer, gastritis is also unfounded, especially if you are doing fasting the right way. That is, you start to be fat adapted first by eating low carb first to lower your inflammation. And once you lower your inflammation, your body will just adapt easily because that is our natural state. So that's me on my way to work after that workout and taking a bath, and me at the operating room before starting our operation. And after 28 hours and 21 minutes of fasting, I'm now ready to eat. So of course, you start with water, and then I had some food with me. I brought low carb bread and also some meat. I have chicken, and also I have pork. And I was eating standing because there's not much space in the operating room to eat, where you can also do some social distancing. And that's how I ate my food for about 20 minutes. That's my OMAD for the day. And remember to stay low carb so that we all stay safe. Thank you.